Adaugo's fight. Adaugo's life was a delicate balance of work and motherhood. She ran a small textile shop in the bustling local market of Adaugo, a town known for its vibrant trade and colourful traditions. Her shop was a haven of creativity, filled with hand-woven fabrics dyed in rich indigos, deep crimsons, and earthy browns. The smell of cotton and dye filled the air, transporting her to a place of serenity. Each piece she crafted told a story of resilience, of beauty born from struggle. But amidst the hum of daily trade, her heart was always tethered to one person, her 7-year-old son, Chisholm. He was her world, the anchor that kept her steady after the storm of her past. Tragedy had shaped Adaugo in ways she rarely spoke of. Her husband, Emeki, the father of her child, had been taken from her in a brutal militia attack years ago. The memories still lingered, etched in her mind like scars on a tree. She could still hear his laughter, still feel the warmth of his hand in hers. But that was all gone now, replaced by the cold reality of loss. She had rebuilt her life, but the trauma never fully left her. It lingered like a shadow, appearing in her quiet moments, in the way she sometimes held Chisholm a little too tightly, as if afraid he too would vanish. Adaugo's relationship with Emeka had been complicated. Love had existed, but so had pain. He had been a man of contradictions, kind yet stubborn, passionate yet distant. And now, all that remained was the boy, a bright-eyed, curious child who carried pieces of both of them. Chisholm's smile could light up a room, and his laughter was contagious. He had his father's mischievous grin and his mother's thoughtful gaze. Life as a single mother was never easy, but Adaugo had help. Her neighbors, the Okoros, were a quiet, unassuming couple who had lived in the community for years. Mr. Okoro was a businessman, though his ventures never seemed to flourish. He was a man of few words, often seen pacing the market with a furrowed brow, muttering about debts and missed opportunities. Mrs. Okoro, on the other hand, was warm and polite, always offering a helping hand. She had a gentle demeanor and a knack for making people feel at ease. They had no children of their own, and they adored Chisholm, often watching him when Adaugo had to work late. Adaugo increderean e complet. They were like family. One fateful evening, as Adaugo was closing her shop, her phone buzzed in her pocket. An unknown number. She hesitated before answering. A low whisper came through the line, chilling her to the bone. "Look, your son is in danger. Do not trust the Okoros." Her breath caught. She gripped the phone tighter. "Who is this?" Silence. She spun around, scanning the dimly lit market, but all she saw were familiar faces packing up their stalls. Her heart pounded. The voice had been calm, almost clinical, but the words carried a weight that made her stomach churn. Without wasting a second, she rushed to the Okoros' house. She knocked frantically, forcing herself to stay calm. The door creaked open, and there stood Mrs. Okoro, smiling warmly. "Adaugo, is everything all right?" Adaugo's eyes darted past her, searching for Chisholm. Then she saw him, sitting on the floor, playing with a wooden toy car. He looked up, his face lighting up. "Mama!" Relief washed over her, but doubt lingered. Everything seemed normal. Too normal. She forced a smile. I just wanted to check on him." Mrs. Okoro chuckled. "You worry too much, my dear. He's perfectly fine." Adaugo nodded slowly, feeling foolish. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe the call had been a cruel prank. Still, as she kissed Chisholm's forehead and left, an unease settled in her stomach. That night, as she sorted fabrics in her shop, she couldn't focus. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the phone call. Then, a loud crash from the back room. She spun around, her heart hammering. Slowly, she stepped forward, pushing open the curtain that led to the storage area. On the wall, in jagged, hurried strokes, was a message scrawled in black ink. "He is not safe." Her blood turned to ice. Adaugo ran. She sprinted through the streets, ignoring the startled looks of passers-by. When she reached the Okoros' house, her worst fear became reality. The door was ajar. Inside, the house was eerily silent. No laughter, no warm smiles, no Chisholm. The Okoros were gone. Adaugo's scream pierced the night. The days that followed were a blur of desperation. She searched endlessly, questioning neighbors, pleading with the police. She barely ate, barely slept. Every lead turned to dust. Then, the truth began to unravel. The Okoros were not who they seemed. Mr. Okoro's business had failed months ago, and he was drowning in debt. But that was only the beginning. Adaugo's frantic search led her to an old journalist, Namdi, who had been investigating a secret organization operating in the shadows of the community. The Okoros were involved. And worse, they had taken Chisholm as part of something much larger than mere debt. The organization was led by a man known only as the Patriarch, a figure shrouded in mystery and fear. He ruled from the shadows, manipulating powerful figures, controlling lives. He believed in sacrifice, literal and metaphorical, to maintain control. And now, Chisholm was his target. Adaugo's hands trembled as she pieced the truth together. The Okoros had betrayed her. They had handed over her son to the Patriarch. But why? What did they gain? Determined, she pushed forward. Clues led her to a hidden underground chamber beneath an abandoned warehouse at the edge of town. She crept inside, heart pounding. The dim glow of lanterns flickered against stone walls. She saw hooded figures gathered around a central platform. And there, in the middle of it all, was Chisholm. Bound, tears streamed down his terrified face as the Patriarch raised a dagger. Adaugo didn't think. She acted. With a scream, she lunged forward, knocking over one of the cultists. Chaos erupted. Flames from overturned torches licked at the wooden beams of the chamber. She fought like a mother possessed. She grabbed Chisholm, yanking him free, shielding him as they pushed through the chaos. The Patriarch's voice rang out, "You cannot run from destiny, Adaugo." But she did. She ran, faster than she ever had before. She burst into the night, holding Chisholm close, the building behind them engulfed in flames. But it wasn't over. The Patriarch and his remaining followers were still out there. Adaugo knew they would come for them. So she went into hiding, moving between safe houses, never staying in one place for too long. But she would not live in fear forever. She gathered allies, people who had suffered under the Patriarch's reign, those who had lost loved ones. Together, they plotted. Neka, a brave young woman, infiltrated the Patriarch's ranks, gaining their trust. Slowly, they uncovered his secrets. And then, the final confrontation came. Adaugo and her allies exposed the Patriarch's real identity, Emmanuel, a fraud who had manipulated people for years. The town turned against him. His own followers abandoned him. He was captured, brought to justice. And at last, peace returned. Years later, Chisholm grew into a strong, wise man. He returned home with his own children, telling them of their grandmother's bravery. As Adaugo looked at her grandchildren, she knew. Her fight had not been in vain. Her story was not just one of pain, but of resilience, courage, and love. And her legacy would live on. The townspeople would whisper stories of Adaugo's bravery for generations to come, how she had faced her fears, fought for her child, and brought down a tyrant. And as the years passed, Adaugo's legend grew. She became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, courage and determination can prevail. And though the Patriarch was gone, his shadow still lingered, a reminder of the evil that had once threatened to consume them all. But Adaugo's story was a beacon of light, shining bright in the darkness, a testament to the power of a mother's love and the unbreakable bonds of family and community. As the sun set on their small town, Adaugo smiled, knowing that she had found her true purpose, to protect her family, to fight for justice, and to inspire others to do the same.